Welcome back to Algebra 1, Chapter 6, Section 6. In this book, stem and leaf plots, mean, median, and mode. Now, when I was your age doing Algebra 1, we didn't learn this, but since the dark ages of the 80s, they have moved more statistics to Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So you get to learn a little statistics, and it's fun and interesting. All right, notice this is so fancy. I needed 2 whiteboards today. All right, so what this is the first thing we're going to learn is the stem and leaf plots, and it's just a different way of organizing data. We've seen organizing data through scatter plots and line graphs, and this is a different way of organizing data. So here I have some data, and this is how the stem and leaf plot works. On this column, I have what's called the stems, and they are the tens. Remember your place values, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. Remember that from elementary school? So like on that number 45, 4 is in the tens place, and 5 is in the ones place. So I go to where the tens place is 4, and I'm going to put a 5 for 45, and I'm going to mark it out to be organized. My next one is 1, and it doesn't have anything in the tens place, so the 1 goes there. I mark it out. 52 is next. Here's 50. I add a 2, mark it out. 42. Now, I just write the 2. The 4 is here. I mark it out. 10 is going to go right there. 40, I put a 0 here to make the 40. 50, 40 again. 7 doesn't have a tens. 46, 19, it's got a 1 in the tens, put a 9 there. 35, 3, 11, 31, 6, 41, 12, 43, oops, I wrote a 4. Yep. So funny how you think one number and write another one, because I'm already thinking about the next thing. 37, 8, 41, 48, 42, squish in there, 55. Okay, now why in the world would you want to do this? Because we can draw little boxes around these. You're like, why in the world would I want to do that? I'm going to show you. And then, you ready for this? Doodle-doo, and this is why I need another whiteboard. Cha-chang! I have a bar graph. I can see by far that I had most things in the 40s. I can see I had second in the zeros, that then I had 4 things in the ones, tied for last, well, sort of last with 3 and 5. I had nothing in the 2. So I was able to go chink, more fun with sound effects, and make a bar graph and be able to see this information. Okay, so stem and leaf, be neat as you do it. Next idea, mean, median, mode. Now, this is one of the problems with math. Why in the world did they decide to name all these something with the letter M? And they don't necessarily sound like what they are. So when they make me queen of math, and I don't know how I'm going to get that because it's not a real position, and I really only want to be queen of math for the United States, we're changing these to something that makes sense. Mean is average. It's the same thing. So we're going to get rid of mean and just call it an average. You hear this in real life, IRL, on the weather. The mean wet rainfall for Georgia this time of year is 4 inches. But we usually use the word average. That's what we need to do. How you take an average, which you should have already learned by now, but if not, learn it now. You add up all your stuff and divide by how many things you got. So we would, if we wanted the mean of these, we would add them all up on our calculator, count them, And however many we have, we would divide by that number and it would tell us the mean. And in fact, they did it in the book and they said that the mean was about 32. So you can practice it. I can't take the time in the video to sit here and put in all those numbers, but you do it. Add them all up and divide. And you know what? I didn't write them all down. Make sure you get all the ones in the book. Okay, median means middle. So we'll just start calling it the middle number. What you do to get the median is you put them all in order and then look and see which one's in the middle. There'll only be one in the middle if you have an odd number of data entries. If you have an even number of data entries, you'll have 2 in the middle. And then what you do is you average them. You add them up and divide by 2 and it'll give you the median. Now how you can remember this, where you see it IRL in real life, is here in Georgia we have these divided highways, and in the middle of the highway there's dirt that they plant wildflowers in. And then they put a little sign in it that says stay off the median, which means no one is allowed to drive through the wildflowers unless you are a policeman. So if you really want to drive through the wildflowers, you got to become a policeman because they can drive wherever they want to. They can do that U-turn right in the middle of the wildflowers, mowing down the daisies, turn on the blue lights and pull you over for speeding down 278. All right, so median is middle. Mode, why in the world it's called mode, is most. It's got 2 letters difference. So whichever one, see how we have more than 141? Do you see anything else with a repeat? Oh, 40 is repeated. We'll pretend like there's one more 40 here. And then 40 would be the thing that is the most. They did it in the book, and they said that so there were 3 things that had the same number. There was 40, 41, and 42. There it is, 42 and 42. So the book said that this data had 3 modes, 40, 41, and 42. I've seen other books, if there's not one that's most, they say there is no mode. So, you know, math people, we disagree on things sometimes. All right. The other thing is the range, and for the range you take the biggest number and subtract the smallest number and it's what it is. So our biggest number was 55 and our smallest was 1, so our range would be 54. A lot of times that people will say the range is from 1 to 55. They'll say it as, you know, showing the range. Other times they want you to subtract and tell what it is. Now, one last thing, a lot of data that comes from nature, if you graph it in that bar graph, it makes what's called a bell-shaped curve. Now, when you take Algebra 2 and other statistics classes, you'll learn a lot about the bell-shaped curve, about standard deviations and all kinds of fun math. But right now, all they want you to know is that a lot of things, when they're graphed in nature, it makes a bell-shaped curve. Intelligence is one of that. Most people are in the middle. But there are some people who are super smart. And there are some people who are super not smart. But most people are in the middle. Alright? So, bell-shaped curve, read your book, read the examples, look at them carefully, and I think this is pretty fun. I hope you do too. Math is great.